406.
Five,
Okay,
I
we'll
would say start with,
565.
yeah, it's
Okay,
easy, that one.
council, please go ahead.
Okay, so House Bill 565 requires the State Board of Pharmacy to send renewal notices by email instead of by first-class mail. And if requested, the board must instead send a notice of renewal by first-class mail, to the individual's last known address. So it's changing it. Right now, it's required by first-class mail. The bill changes it to the renewal notices will be sent by email unless otherwise requested. There are no amendments.
Is there any discussion or debate? Is there a motion?
Move the bill.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Is there any discussion on the bill? All those in favor of the bill, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to the bill?
Are we on, I'm sorry, Mr.
Uh,
Chair, are we on HB 406?
No, we're not. I've been
Okay,
corrected.
what bill are we on?
House Bill 565.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Is there anyone opposed to 565? Chair hearing and seeing no opposition, the bill is approved unanimously. 406.
This bill alters the appointment process for members of the State Board of Examiners for audiologists, hearing aid dispensers, speech language pathologists, and music therapists. The bill requires the governor to appoint audiologists, hearing aid dispensers, and music therapist members with advice of the Secretary of Health from a list submitted to the Secretary and the governor by the board instead of by specified professional associations. Additionally, the bill requires the board to notify all licensed hearing aid dispensers and music therapists of relevant vacancies for the purpose of soliciting nominations. And finally, the bill clarifies that a quorum requires a majority of the appointed members of the board.
Okay, and the history of this issue is that there was legislation that we passed last year. And what effect would this bill have on that?
Last year, we passed a bill that for just the audiology member, we went from the board sending the nominations we went from the board to the association, the professional association, and this would change it back. But it would also change the hearing aid dispensers and music therapy members.
Okay, is there the sponsor here in the committee or someone?
Yes, sir.
Delegate Gazone, could you speak to the bill? Do you wish to speak to the bill?
Sure. This was actually a bill that was brought to me by the department. It was originally going to be a departmental, and then I think they had exceeded their number of departmentals, so they asked me to take it on, which I did. And it does make this change. I don't know if the executive director of the board itself is here or not. Oh, there she is, Keena Stevenson. So she may want to speak a little bit too. But what this does will make all of the various professions on this board go directly to the appointments, so that in none of these four groups would there be an association that would be sending up names to the governor's office. It goes simply straight to the appointments office. So the speech language pathologists have gone directly to appointments office without them going through an association already. And speech language pathologists are the majority of this particular board. This change just changes it to all four of the professions. And I believe I know there's one of the professions, I think it's the hearing aid dispensers, that the association that is currently in the statute is no longer an association. So right now they're not able to get anybody onto a board because they don't have a group that is forwarding names to the governor.
And they would be able to who would send the names to the appointments office?
People would apply directly to the appointments office.
Individual members.
Which obviously does not prevent any particular association or organization from providing letters of recommendation for individuals.
Mm-hmm.
As part of the appointment process.
Okay. Delegate Collison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Delegate Gazani, for helping me understand the bill. I just want to make sure that I'm clear because I heard you just say that there is still that we want consistency among the boards, among the professions in this particular board. That makes perfect sense to me. So right now, as this board is written, is it true that each one of these professions will be notified of the vacancy? All of the members of the profession that are licensed in Maryland will be notified of the vacancy, and then individuals will submit their names to the board, and then the board will submit them to the appointments office? Or am I wrong? And are they submitting their names directly to the appointments office? Which way are they all doing it?
Thank you,
Ms.
Delegate. I believe that they will go directly to the appointments office, but I want to check that with Ms. Stevenson.
So, Ms. Stevenson, so there's no submitting names to the board. They go directly to appointments, but the way I read the bill,
Yeah.
it says, with the advice of the secretary from a list submitted to the secretary and governor by the board. So I'm not hearing clearly which way this goes yet.
Sure, I'm happy to clear that up for you.
Okay.
So what happens is all licensees that we license, all 6,200, they receive an email notification that vacancies will be coming available, usually in the spring. Okay. A link is included in that email. That link directs them directly to the Office of Appointments. That's the Office of Appointments board membership form. And with that link, they would load up their qualifications, their resumes, etc. That's housed in the Office of Appointments. Our placement officer within Office of Appointments will share that list with me at the end of that process. I am able to see the list, and all we do, we pretty much turn around and submit it back. So it's basically, we just say, yes, these all look great. Please select who you want, because at the end of the day, the Office of Appointments does make that final selection. We actually cannot make the selection. We just want the power, if you will, for everyone, for every applicant to be looked at. And right now we can't have that because that list would solely come from an organization for those particular disciplines.
And so I appreciate that. And with your indulgence, one more follow-up, Mr. Chair.
Certainly.
But the list says with the advice of the secretary, it doesn't say that was submitted to the secretary and the governor. The list was submitted to the secretary and the governor by the board. So, I mean, isn't it that
that list? Yes, I forward that list to the secretary. The names will originally go into the Office of Appointments because that's just how the portal is set up. That link leads you to the Office of Appointments portal. Okay. Once all that's downloaded, the placement officer sends me that list of names. I put all of those names on a memo to the secretary, to the governor's Office of Appointments, and say and recommend them for appointment. So in theory, electronically it comes from me, but the names are in the governor's portal.
Okay. All right. I think I'm clear, but I'll let some others talk before I ask any more questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
My pleasure. Delegate Bagnall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I'm glad the vice chair is clear because I'm more confused. Because I'm looking back at the history of what we did last year, and it looks like in 2021 there was a bill to remove the Maryland Academy of Audiology, and then there was a bill last year to reinstate the Maryland Academy of Audiology. And if I'm understanding this is now a bill to repeal what we just did to address an issue that arised from the bill in 2021. So I'm deeply concerned that we're not really solving the problem here, and that we're like in a cycle of as my colleagues often like to say, picking winners and losers on this. And so if I could get some clarity on that, maybe from the multiple folks who have been, you know, in this particular tennis match.
Ms. Stevenson, your serve.
Okay. And just to give you a little bit of my history, I was not on the board at 20. I've only been with the board for 1 year. I was, however, on the board when this bill came up last year. The board did oppose the bill last year. So the board did want to, the board's goal is to go back to that 2021 bill that we just referenced to. The bill opposed, the board opposed the bill last year, but it still passed. So the board does desire to get it back to that 2021 original standing, if that makes sense.
Can we hear from Delegate Jennifer White Holland?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think, again, likewise, Delegate Bagnall, I'm still lost in the sauce here. I'm really trying to understand, given that we've been waffling between these various proposals between 2021, last year, and now this year. I'm still trying to get a better understanding and trying to recall from the hearing and even trying to parse out in the comments, what is the issue that we're trying to solve here? Is it an issue of equity in how individuals from these various sectors and careers are selected? And is this bill seeking to put it in the posture of 2021 to rectify that, to ensure that there's greater equity? I'm just trying to understand what is the problem we're trying to solve and how does this bill attempt to solve it? It sounds like that they're without the association, that it creates more openness for others who are individuals that are certified in the state to be a part of the board that may not be members of the association. Is that correct? And can you clarify what are truly the issues, and are there examples of different issues that have arisen given this time frame that we've been in? Thank you. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair, but that's a lot of questions there.
Who wants
No,
to try and answer some or all of those questions?
I'm going to, I think it's a two-part answer. I think overall the idea is to offer everyone the opportunity to be reviewed and to be considered for a member of the board. The concern is that if you are not a member of an organization, your name is not going to be on the list that is turned over by the organization. I think that's a pretty fair assumption, that if I am not a member of a set organization, my name is not going to be on that list that is submitted to the governor's office. So we are trying to make it so that you're not required to be a paid organizational member to be considered for one of our boards. So it is an equity issue.
Do we do that elsewhere?
Part two.
Is there, if I could ask counsel, if
yes,
you know
we
whether...
do. Yes, absolutely. We do. We actually do that. So my board serves 4 disciplines, sir. And our largest discipline, which is speech language pathology, my board has over 6,000 licensees. Speech language pathology has over 4,000 licensees. So obviously they are the majority of the board, and they do not go to a professional organization. Those names are submitted directly. Therefore, it would just basically make sense to follow that across the line, especially since the majority of the board is filled that way. To try to answer Delegate White's concern, the best example I can give you right now is that I currently have 2 board vacancies that I can't fill because in statute, for hearing aid dispensers, is the discipline I'm referring to, our statute is written so that hearing aid dispensers must be appointed by an organization. That That organization is the Hearing Society of Maryland. But unfortunately, the Hearing Society of Maryland has disbanded. They no longer exist. So what does that mean? That means right now, I am down to one hearing aid dispenser because I cannot fill my other two vacancies because they have to be filled by an organization. That organization does not exist. So I hope that kind of addresses Delegate White's question. We have a list of hearing aid dispensers already in the portal. You know, who would,
Well, I would think we should resolve, at a minimum, resolve the question of the
yeah,
authority being granted to an entity that no longer exists.
yeah.
Delegate Bhandari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a similar question as well, given that the 2024 legislation was designed, I believe, to ensure the representation for audiologists on the board. And I don't think it is fully in effect 8, right? So still we have to look how that works. And I'm trying to understand what is the justification overturning it before even its implementation.
Anyone wish to volunteer to tackle that? No, okay, Mr. Gilgen, you had your hand up before.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. Thank you, everyone. I agree with Delegate Bagnall. We don't want to pick winners and losers. So I'd like to try to very quickly, because no one from the audiologist testified in person. We submitted written testimony and Dr. Alicia Sporazan. So I'm going to give some real quick history here. I think the solution that people are grappling for is that this bill should not pass, and respectfully, a letter should go from either this board to or the committee to the health secretary and ask for uniformity in notice provisions and appointment provisions in the 19 different health occupation articles. That's why we're playing whack-a-mole here, going back and forth. Dr. Spore's testimony in her appendix, which you may not have had a chance to see, listed the health occupation boards in which a majority send their appointments directly to the governor. So Delegate Kerr's bill, Senator Kramer's bill passed unanimously, allowing the audiologists to join the music therapist and the hearing aid dispensers to send directly to the governor. Why was this bill put in last year? That's really your question. The truth is this: in 2023, we submitted names to the board under the current statute at that time. None were transmitted to the governor's appointments office. And in 2020, so we put Delegate Kerr's bill in 24, you passed that unanimously, we could do that. In fact, we have written confirmation from Curtis Antonucci in the governor's appointment office that this year, through October 1st, when the board was required to submit names, no names were submitted. So we submitted 3 names under the statute to the governor's office. I have to tell you, additionally, if you look at the bill, it's so poorly drafted. I'm trying to get the page exact reference number. You'll note in the bill, it goes from sub 2 to sub 5. What's missing is 3 and 4. 4 is the speech language pathologist, and 3 is, guess what? The ENTs, the otolaryngologist, and they submit it directly to the governor. So this bill that the board wanted to put in, that the distinguished delegate sponsored, doesn't even remove the direct appointment to the governor for the ENTs. So it's highly inconsistent. Let me also add, in response to Ms. Stevenson's comment about the rationale of trying to make sure, and I think Delegate Cullison referenced this in her question during the hearing. Well, what happens? We have these associations, are they truly representative? Submitted to the committee, unfortunately after, but I think it has been submitted in the testimony, is a letter from the current representative of the audiologist on January 28th, Crystal Courtney. She said, I'm writing to provide information. And on October 23rd, 24, I was contacted by Dr. Alicia Spohr, legislative chair for the MAA, Maryland Academy of Audiology. During our conversation, she inquired about my interest in serving on the Board of Examiners to fill a vacant seat. With the support of MAA, I prepared and submitted my resume and letter of intent. MAA also served as a communication liaison, assisting me in submitting my materials through the governor's portal. On November 19, 24, I was appointed by the governor. This opportunity would not have been possible without the encouragement and assistance of Dr. Spohr and the Maryland Academy of Audiology. Their guidance played a critical role in my decision to apply, and it's worth noting that I was not, nor am I currently, an MAA representative. And I will add one more aspect. She is a person of color, and 2 out of 3 representatives of the Maryland Academy of Audiology are persons of color. I would also just, and I'll conclude with this, and the reason why we can't play whack-a-mole and we need consistency, in the amendment submitted last year by the speech language pathologist, I'm sort of holding it up, but it's highlighted in Delegate Kerr's bill. The SLP said, quote, we also request an amendment that would allow MASHA, they were trying to tack onto our bill, as the only organization that represents SLPs, to submit the same to the governor, specifically a list submitted to the secretary and the governor by the SLPs. So they flipped this year. They were for it last year, but it highlights the point of the inconsistency. You shouldn't be wasting your time on the whack-a-mole aspect of this. We should ask the health department to seek consistency. With that, I appreciate the time of the subcommittee. We held our end of the bargain. We hope you'll hold your end with Delegate Kerr's bill and Senator Kramer's and move unfavorable on this. Thank you.
Sarah Peters.
Hi there, Sarah Peters here on behalf of the Maryland Speech Language Hearing Association. Want to talk about what Gil just mentioned as it relates to our position on the bill last year and the bill this year. So last year, they had introduced a bill that it be exclusively to MAA. Maryland Speech Language Hearing Association has membership, which includes audiologists and speech pathologists. Historically, we worked together as MAA and my organization to recommend names. Because of their bill, we said, well, hey, if they're trying to do it, of course, we're going to try to do it. We should be jointly in the statute together. Well, the bill passed, the board brought forth this bill, and so our position changed because, yes, all the boards should be treated the same. So at this point, because MAA is not directly listed in the bill, we're okay with the current language proposed.
Okay. There are no other hands. Delegate Vice Chair Collison.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if the sponsor and the committee would consider, I appreciate the issue with respect to the music therapist and the fact that there is no organization. But I'm also very concerned that there is lack of consistency and clarity around the appointment processes for the rest of the groups. So if we were to amend this bill to leave the references to the Maryland Academy of Audiologists as is, and the only change be in number 8, which is the appointment of the music therapist from a list submitted by the board in order to address the issue that that association doesn't exist. And I think, as Mr. Jen said, work on the appointments process, and let's see if we can't get some sort of consistency through this board, but through other boards as well. Because I understand, I've tried to reach the appointments board, and I have not been able, and they've not responded. So because I really wanted to understand why and how the appointments process was different for all the different boards. So I would guess I would look at Delegate Gazzoni if she would consider it a friendly amendment to leave everything the same except for the music therapist.
If you wouldn't mind, Delegate Cullison, if I could let, well, Lisa has her hand up, so that might be a valuable information. But
Right.
also Kina and Dr. Alicia as well, but,
Yeah, no, that's terrific. No, thank you.
Delicate Cullison, it's not the music therapist that's the issue right now. It's actually the hearing aid dispensers. Their organization is no longer in existence. So that's where we kind of have the problem there. We haven't hit that wall, and hopefully we will not with music therapists. But right now, it is the hearing aid dispensers that's posing the problem.
Dr. Spoor. You're muted. No, we're
Yes,
okay.
yes. As an audiologist, I appreciate you making sure you can hear me. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate that, and committee. I also want to make sure that as you consider maybe what to strike out, with this legislation, that you also look at this big issue around the quorum, because Ms. Stevenson did mention there are 4 professions on this board, and we don't always see eye to eye about what we're doing. And so we do want to make sure that no profession is underrepresented during a hearing meeting where the other professions could change their regulations, their scope, their information. And again, I appreciate that we all say that we can be trusted and worth, but when emotions become an issue and you get heated and involved, I've seen this happen when music therapists came onto the board of examiners, and one of the professions was very diligent about trying to kind of squash what those music therapists can do. So I would kindly suggest that you also look at that quorum requirement at the bottom and make sure that we have at least one voting member available from each profession when a quorum is in session. And if it's not being met, then we need to look at the disciplinary action of removing people who are not showing up to those board of examiner meetings and appointing to somebody who actually will. So thank you for that.
Counsel, you have your hand raised. Lisa.
I just wanted to make it clear that right now, all of the appointments to the board, the speech language pathologists are appointed directly, or the nominations come directly from the board. So that's the inconsistency now. The other health occupations are through their designated professional organizations, but the speech language pathologists are currently through the board. So what the bill would do is inline all of the occupations that are licensed under the board so that they would all come directly from the board. Now, this board is a little bit unique in that it has a couple of doctor members who I will not be able to pronounce the name, but the OTs, the otolaryngologists. So there's a few doctors, and those doctors are currently appointed through their professional association, and under the bill, they would still be appointed through their professional association. So I just wanted to try to clarify where we are now and what the bill is trying to do.
Delegate Bandari.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to hold this bill for another meeting. I think we need to work through. This is a wonderful bill, but I would move the motion to hold the bill.
Would you find it acceptable to include in your motion creating a work group that would come back to us with a recommendation?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Is there any objection that the amendment is moved and amended? Is there any objection to that motion to hold the bill and to create a work group to try and resolve the matters raised by the bill? Okay. So moved. That is the extent of our agenda. So we are adjourned, and you have 59 minutes to have lunch prior to the full committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Lisa, can you stay online? Matt, can you get offline? Okay,
I removed him.
okay, very good. What power?
This is amazing. I have so much power to make this meeting go on time. I'm glad to have it.
I
Good.
love it whenever I'm doing it and I can mute somebody. That's my favorite thing.
Well, I did that to one of the delegates who were speaking, and he goes,
Yep.
I'm glad if we can get this forward.
So which of my colleagues should you or I ask to chair?
Um,
Or to
I mean, I kind of feel like let's see. Oh no, Delegate Kazerni and Delegate Kerr, you both have had this bill or not on the
well, I was
on the
thinking whether it should
subcommittee.
be Cullison
Yeah,
or
it
Bagnall.
should probably be Cullison and Bagnall, and if you needed a Republican as well, Morgan
Mm-hmm.
or Hutchinson, either one.
I would put Hutchinson.
Okay. I'll talk to Delegate Cullison, and you can talk to her too when you see her, but I'll
Okay,
walk down the
both,
hall.
we'll both talk to her. Fine.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, well, that was what we expected, just to have conversation.
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know that it really got us anywhere, but
Mm-hmm.
we
tried.
will have to talk about the quorum issue too, because that I don't think anyone had a real discussion about, but Dr. Spores brought it up. So
Okay, fine.
yeah.